Hi.
Hi, welcome to Wheel of Time Spoilers Podcast.
The live recording.
Episode 389.
Wow.
389.
Wow.
We just did 388 with tangents, and this is 389 as we start the Path of Daggers.
Yes, which as a reminder to our online audience, you can still buy an autographed version of Path of Daggers through the auction. You can bid on a autographed Path of Daggers from us.
Let me clarify, that is autographed by me and Aradia.
We defaced it.
Not by anyone important.
No. You're saying that I'm not important?
Oof. That did sound like that, didn't it? You're important to me.
So yeah, Path of Daggers, 8th book. We're here.
And it has been a minute since we've done this, which I was mentioning earlier. So forgive us any missteps. Also, some sleep was had last night. Did you sleep last night?
I did sleep.
Yeah.
I did pass out. Yes.
Yeah.
And I am now running on coffee.
Me too. Gosh, I was just chugging it. Nice to meet you. The con has been a blast, right?
Yes. Yeah. Everyone, you're amazing. Give it up for yourselves.
A huge shout out to Rob for all the technical work
Seriously.
he has done. That man is a miracle on steroids.
Yeah. We have a lot of amazing volunteers who are each indispensable, but Rob might be the most indispensable.
I'm going to have to throw Amanda out there. Talia out there as well.
Yeah.
She's also just running this thing left and right.
We really were just clowns.
Right.
We do just show up and we look pretty.
We paint our faces, and, side juggle a little bit, and then we move on. I did put on the wig. Yes, that was fun.
Yeah,
it was a good wig. Should I just be podcasting in the wig?
Oh God. Ugh.
Well, I think it's in Coos Bay. If someone wants to run and go get it.
And Neil takes off.
Oh no! I was hoping that was too much effort. That's why I said someone, not you in particular. We had, the Michael Kramer Kate writing reading was amazing. They stayed with us for an hour and a half answering questions. Sweet. More than they were an hour and 45 minutes by the time it was done.
They're the sweetest nerds.
God, the artist live streams, all three of them have just been really nice. They're just beautiful work, and to see the people like working in real time means a lot to me. I've done a couple of panels. The trial was just funny.
I had so much fun. I didn't know anything about that other than that you had a wig. Everything else was new to me. It was very fun.
And again, shout out to Recappa for writing that one.
Yes.
Just brilliant. If you're not watching Brian on Wheel Talks,
yes.
Make sure.
No, Wheel Talk. That's what it is. It's Wheel Talk.
Okay.
Singular talk.
Wheel Talk, yes. With Recappa, so much good stuff. And Brian's now putting out a few episodes just as Brian.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
cool.
So that's
nice.
That's
There's also Tarvalon After Dark.
Yes.
Which again features that brilliantly hilarious writing.
Yes. As well as Jess, who did a ton of work to make this con happen.
Jess helped a lot.
Nate Bliss, who did not. But he does a great YouTube channel as well. Yeah.
So
anything else about the con?
The costumes have all been amazing. I really enjoyed seeing everyone in costume. I was actually able to eat food this year. The last time we were in person, I was so anxious the entire time. I didn't eat. This time I have eaten, so that is good. That's a plus.
Excellent. Well,
it's a game.
We should have. So I'm spared to the wig. Apparently it's disappeared. Someone must have really wanted a souvenir. The pictures do exist.
But otherwise the con has just been amazing. It's been really good to get to hang out with all of you in person. And just really, really glad to be able to have this sort of experience with all of you. It's been very special. Yeah,
and how can I forget my favorite part? All of you, right? Like getting to talk to you, not nearly enough because I also have to do all this technical work. But I would, I can't. The nights that we hung out last night and what I expect to happen in about an hour is going to be a blast.
Yes, very much. The real reason that we get together.
Yeah. All right. Well, just
with that,
let's read in.
Yeah.
Oh my God, reading is
just as a little bit of context, this book was published in 1998. Just is that like one book a year average that he was maintaining. And the dedication for this book is for Harriet, my light, my life, my heart forever, which is just
I love that dedication.
The dedications are so sweet. But yeah, you didn't even bring your copy of the book. It's all my copy.
I have the digital copy.
Oh,
this is how I always do. That's why I have my laptop in front of me, so I can actually read the book.
See the behind the scenes of how you do this.
Oh yeah, I know you're always looking at my face. You never actually see the process.
No, I never see your work.
Oh well.
I mean, I have a physical book.
Right, and you ruined it.
I have added value by defacing it.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah, I'm going to auction this off for like $1,000 by itself in a couple of years.
Keep thinking that. Meanwhile, I have my highlights all synced between my phone, my different computers. Yeah. And I can take notes in there, and it's great. And I don't have to destroy a physical copy in trees.
I'm telling you, it's adding value.
We are procrastinating.
Yes, we are. We're not used to seeing our audience staring at us.
Yeah, it's giving us a second. We're just like, okay.
Usually I'm just looking at your face.
Right. And it's funny, we keep looking over at each other because we're used to actually seeing each other. I'm going to read us in. Prophecies. Well, sayings. Who would sup with the mighty must climb the path of daggers. Anonymous notation found inked in the margin of manuscript history, believed to date to the time of Arthur Hawkwing and the last days of the Tovan conclaves. Followed immediately by, on the heights, all paths are paved with daggers.
Yes. Dun, dun, dun.
Which, I mean, I feel like that's just a very simple commentary on we're not dealing with village boys anymore. We have power and politics and death, and there's going to be death and blood, right? There are daggers.
Yeah, I also looked up the nation of Tovah.
Yeah.
Because obviously I did. Brigida and Matt make some comments about Tovan high counselors or something like that. But the nation of Tovah is actually a precursor to Kyrian. They were not ruled by kings. They were ruled by conclaves. And they were bordering the nation of Tar-Valon when this was written. And they were one of the kingdoms of the free years. And when Tovah fell apart, the events around that sparked the Game of Houses, according to in-world lore. The reason Kyrian is the way it is because of the nation of Tovah, who also clearly helped inspire Seanchan, because this was before Seanchan was colonized by the Westlanders.
That makes a good point, yeah, because that was only 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of Game of Houses Seanchan overlap here that is... I didn't realize that until I did research for this, but... So
how do we square that with the saying that the White Tower invented the Game of Houses? Do we think that's just like they're better at it or they do it more?
I think it's them taking credit.
Fair enough. Well...
Because Aes Sedai.
Right.
Also, they may have helped invent it in the falling apart of Tovah.
That makes sense.
In what becomes Kyrian, the Aes Sedai may have been very integral to that whole process.
Yeah, definitely. Advisors.
Yeah. Well, we're just advising. Pulling strings.
And so we start the prologue. I mean, there's a great map, the standard map.
The usual map.
And deceptive appearances. And our symbol is the snake in the wheel. What's the deceptive appearances part of that?
Because the Borderlanders have been trying to hide their progress across the continent.
Gotcha.
Since leaving the Borderlands.
They're also trying to hide their purpose.
Right.
Yeah, because we know that the purpose is based among a prophecy, an Arafellan prophecy, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that's really why they're down here, and they're trying to hide that.
Yeah, there's also a lot of stuff about how the people that Atheniella is looking at, there's more to to them than meets the eye. And she keeps talking about how, like, oh, there's layers to people. There's always something more. So there's that also. It's not deceptive. It's people are complicated. It's not like intentional.
The other thing, I mean, there is more in this prologue than just the Borderlanders. This also has Varen, who is very, very black. We won't go into that today, but there is a lot of deception going on with that because she's doing the compulsion
on the prisoners in the IEO camp, which is fun.
And then we have the Moradin section where he's playing chess with the pieces. And so that's a little more.
Yeah, this way we get the line, it's hard to lose when you're playing both sides of the
Exactly.
game.
Yeah.
But yeah, we decided for reasons of brain cells and time that we're only going to do the Borderlander section. So that way the Varen section really gets its due, because there's a lot to bite into there.
There's so much there.
And there's plenty going on in this section.
Definitely. So do you want to read it, or should
I can read this in, or you can read this in?
Go right ahead. I read the prophecies.
Okay. Prologue, deceptive appearances, snake and whale. Etheniel had seen mountains lower than these misnamed black hills, great lopsided heaps of half-buried boulders webbed with steep, twisting passes. A number of those passes would have given a goat pause. You could travel 3 days through drought-withered forests and brown-grassed meadows without seeing a single sign of human habitation, then suddenly find yourself within half a day of 7 or 8 tiny villages, all ignorant of the world. The Black Hills were a rugged place for farmers, away from the trade routes, and harsher now than usual. A gaunt leopard that should have vanished at the sight of men watched from a steep slope, not 40 paces away, as she rode past with her armored escort. Westward, vultures wheeled patient circles like an omen. Not a cloud marred the blood-red sun, yet there were clouds of a sort. When the warm wind blew, it raised walls of dust. I don't know if I should do the second paragraph.
I think that sets the tone.
Yeah.
We're in the Black Hills.
And there's no wind, so
There's no wind.
there is a wind.
Oh, there is a wind.
Yeah, so we're good. The wind has risen. The book can start.
Yeah. It's between the Borderlanders and the Caroline Grass, so fairly north. The Black Hills is where Codswain got her lesson from a wilder and got the paralysis net. So this is just living out in the middle of nowhere, very isolated. And we see them sneaking through that area, trying to avoid any human habitation.
Yeah. And this is also giving us that pressure of the bowl of the winds needs to get used now.
Yeah. We really are at that point where things have gotten bad, right? Everybody, because the Bowl of the Winds is used pretty much right away in the beginning of this book. Like that is the first few chapters. So we are at peak heat. After this point, we get the Bowl of the Winds, and then things start to break, and we see a change in the weather. So, this is walls of dust.
Yeah, walls of dust. When you get walls of dust, it's bad.
Yeah. The Dust Bowl is not a pleasant time. I don't think. Yeah.
No. And this is also the point where we get perspective later on, like, if the Great Lord had not relented, everyone would die. And the Bowl of the Winds it changes that. Like, this is a make or break point in the climate system for them.
So I learned apparently that tilling soil is terrible for creating dust this weekend.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes, it is.
Do you think the Borderlanders were just sucking at their crop maintenance?
Well, they're out of the Borderlands by now. They're not responsible for the management of this landscape.
Black Hills, that's fair. It is probably just wild.
Yeah. It's but yes, no-till agriculture is better.
Yeah. I did not know that. I thought tilling was good for the soil. I learned. So this is a meeting of multiple Borderlanders coming together. They've all sort of snuck around independently, kind of like the Red Sisters did.
Yes, they'd split up and then regather later. Yeah.
Well, they definitely coordinated this ahead of time. They were coming from the Borderlanders, all the different Borderland nations and meeting down in the Black Hills.
I don't quite know why they couldn't just meet in the Borderlands.
Secrecy.
Oh yeah, and they're trying to get to Rand.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, let's all meet up en route.
Right. Yeah. You don't go across town and pick your friend up when the bar's right next to you. Yeah. Neutral space.
Neutral space.
There's no nation. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So they're not invading anybody.
And they talk a lot about like we're all allies, but we have complicated relationships. So neutral territory makes a lot of sense.
The Borderlanders have a very interesting relationship because they do share borders, and I'm sure there's conflict between the nations, but they have such a common enemy that they really do need to pull together. But at the same time, like, the Arafelans see the Saldaeans, it's really weird. Like there's definitely a different culture there. There's always cultural conflict when you have different cultures.
Yeah.
No matter how much of a unified goal that you might have.
Yeah. So they're coming together because they all know about this one prophecy that was made right at the end of the breaking, I think, is when that prophecy happened.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's definitely from Arafel, so it has to be within 1,000 years because Arafel only existed within the last 1,000 years, right?
Or it was passed down from Proto Arafel.
Yeah, it was
to the wiki.
Nach Iman family has produced a Aes Sedai who had the prophecy. So
but they all know about it. All the Borderlander nations are able to be like, hey, it's time to go check on this. And everyone's like, oh yeah, we know about that.
Yes, it was one of Karuna's forebears. So she is a powerful channeler, but also her forebear was the one who told the prophecy. Yes.
Right. So it's a family. It's not secret, but it's a family knowledge drop. So yeah, they were ready to kill people to keep this secret, but they've managed to avoid it. We're in Atheniel's head, and she thinks about, hey, I didn't have to kill anyone. I didn't do war crimes this trip. Yay. It's like, I mean, I guess if you're a head of state, that's an accomplishment.
Well, yeah, slaughter. I mean, obviously the White Cloaks didn't bother.
Yeah. I love this line here from her where she can't decide if it would be worse if Rand is a false dragon or the dragon reborn. Either way is bad.
Right. Because if he's a false dragon, then all of a sudden you're going to war with this guy who's the ruler of Ilion, who just became the ruler of Ilion, has all the Aiel. Like, that's a bad situation. If he is the dragon reborn, last battle. Like, so, it's like not winning either way. It's not a good thing, right? They do not want to do this ride. It is not fun. But especially with how powerful Rand has become. If they find themselves his enemy, I would want to, right now, being on the other side of Rand, I mean, he's taken out Forsaken like a freaking candy.
Yeah, very much so. Working together?
No, none of them want to fight Rand by themselves. And there is, the prophecy also says they must do it together, right? This is the blood pact. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Borderlanders. I think part of the prophecy is that it has to be a secret type situation. So like it really is the fate of the world depends on them keeping this a secret. So I certainly think it's possible the Aes Sedai don't know exactly what's going on. But then you've got these 13 who are hanging out with the various groups, and they have to have some clue that Rand is involved and there's something with the Last Dragon. I don't know if they know about the prophecies, and I don't know if they know exactly why the rulers are doing what they do.
Yeah,
we don't speak about it. Yeah, they don't speak about it, and we don't get a POV from any of those Aes Sedai that I know about.
No. So yeah, Atheniella is debating if this is any good or not, and she sort of talks to a few of her counselors about it. That's kind of the dialogue of the chapter, and we get told the other choices only carry different risks, not lesser, because it's the end of the world. There are no good choices. People will die, nations will fall, the dragon will be reborn. Like, and she's, frustrated by that. And the simple need to act is why she's here, but it's not why she's here. She's here because prophecies need to be fulfilled, right? That's the real reason why she's here. And so she says that to her Aes Sedai advisor, and then she looks over to her sword bearer, who's a fun little bit of a character because this is Lord Baldire, who Sanderson tells us is one of our only gay characters. This is one of the two, and he shows up here described as nice being where's the phrase? He's got a supercilious air. He's got a biting tongue, and he affected to care more for music and his clothes than anything. So he's kind of coded as gay, But Sanderson's the one that actually gave us like, yes, that is there. There you go. You have representation, which is like,
But a careful reading of stereotypes.
yeah,
It's like, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, we learned he's been a general for like 20 years for a queen of a war nation. I mean, clearly he's competent, right? Yeah, he's underestimating me. I care more about clothes. He's fussy, all of that. He also fun thing, he asks Lan about Agilmar acting weird in the last battle and is one of those people who keeps pushing Lan to question Agilmar. So he's kind of instrumental to the unraveling of Grandal's plot to mess with all the great captains. He's the one that keeps being like, this just isn't right. And Lan's like, okay, fine, third time's a charm. I'll go ask him, blah. And so he's important in that way.
I will say that's one of my more frustrating moments with Lan, I think, in the entire books is like, this isn't right. Lan would trust his instincts faster. It takes too many pushes, in my opinion, to get Lan to do something. I feel like the first mention, Lan would be all over that. Like, pick a metaphor. If I was going to sabotage an army, how would I do it? Well, yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just like, at that point, you realize that what Agilmar is doing is sabotaging it. And he still procrastinates for a little while longer, doesn't he? I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, Lan doesn't want to like question an older general and the King of Malkir. I mean, he's being Lan really hard.
There is, I guess, some honor involved there in terms of like.
Yeah. Oh, this guy, Baldari. Because Baldari is the one who's smart enough to be like, Agilmar's acting a little off.
Yeah. I mean, basically. When you're right, you're right. Right.
Yeah, Baldari is as supportive as the Aes Sedai about this choice. It's like, I don't like hiding who we are, but you have to do what you're gonna do. Yeah, and Nathaniel is just like, whatever, it's fine. I'm a queen. I'm gonna do my thing.
Do you think Nathaniel's blade is power wrought?
I mean, probably. They're hard to destroy.
Yeah. I mean, it is an ancient sword.
Yeah.
It would make sense.
But it's mostly ceremonial, so they don't use it, so they don't know. But yeah, I would assume that it is.
It's one of those things where like some say power wrought. Like power wrought swords we see is like the hilt gets replaced over and over and over and over again, and it never gets a scratch, never gets a mar. It's one of those things where it's like, how do you not know?
Well, if it's ceremonial, you don't take it out of its scabbard and use it. You don't test the edge, like. But yeah, it's a little hand wavy. It's a little eye of the worldism.
Yes, she was. Yes. She was pretty amazing. The Kiru Khan, the sword of Kiru Khan, the fabled warrior queen of Aramella.
Yeah, she's badass. Yeah, probably, yeah, exactly. With that sword.
She probably, yeah. Do we have her story?
Oh, not to hand.
I think I do.
I just need to give you a mic. You're going to keep contributing. Yeah, but she has this great thought where she's like, I don't think that just because I'm on the throne of the clouds will bend to my will. And then the clouds do bend to her will effectively, but that's because of other people doing other things.
Oh yeah, that is mentioned later in this chapter where it says she's beheaded a false dragon with her hands and birthed 2 sons either by the same man or another one. So this is the whole like she was a channeler, right?
No, she's a queen.
Just a queen? They just say warrior queen. Was Brigida, she has a temper like a boar caught in briars at the best. Not like anyone close by.
Oh, that's a comment about Elaine?
Oh, yeah.
You're like,
yeah, it's a comment about Elaine.
I've met queens like you before.
Definitely. Well, isn't there that other Aes Sedai who, like, married a false dragon and had kids by him and then gentled them or something like that?
No, I think you're.
Am I mixing up? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think you're applying Aes Sedai to a queen. But Yeah,
sometimes in the ancient histories they're not that different because you have these warrior queens and these warrior Aes Sedai and like they're out doing legendary things with false dragons. Like I wouldn't expect a queen to be the one to take down a false dragon.
Right.
I would expect that to be a Aes Sedai. So that's thrown off my brain.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
So allies of long standing, yet the time spread suspicion like flies on a midden. Too many rulers to the south had died or vanished in the last year for her to feel any comfort in wearing a crown. Whoever he was, this Althora fellow had much to answer for. She's pissed. She is coming for the dragon.
Well, and it's very few. I think we talk about how like Berlain is the only ruler who like makes it through the last battle, still in charge. Like when anyone like is like, oh, Berlain, what is she doing? I'm like, the only one who survives,
not dying.
Yeah, she really does win,
Yeah.
And she gets a guarantee from the Dragon's Peace.
Yeah, and Galad. She gets Galad.
He's just, she wins Galad. That's true. She does win the prettiest boy at the end of the story. So
it's appropriate.
That's appropriate. Yeah.
And the next thing I've got is this whole thing about this weird spire, which is just such a random thing that never shows up again.
I think it's emitting some sort of radiation. I think it's either a radio tower or in some way radioactive.
Yeah, I like that.
But the way he describes it as like golden and fallen lace, I'm thinking about like a big radio tower that's like up in the air and pumping out some sort of waves. And we do know that like if you stand in front of a really powerful radio telescope, it can get pretty good. I mean, radio waves are basically microwaves.
Yeah,
and
it's all light. It's all radiation.
It's all radiation. So.
Yeah,
that's non-ionizing radiation. There is a difference. Non-ionizing radiation does not penetrate your skin. It cannot hurt you. Do not be afraid.
It's a deep state conspiracy.
The light coming off the LED bulbs is more powerful than that stuff. It's really, it's a real problem. But no, there does seem to be some sort of invisible radiation because people die when they go near this thing. Right?
I like to think it's a malfunctioning one too. I don't think it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, but it's a leftover from the Age of Legends and it's not still powered up somehow. Oh, it's first stage.
Yeah.
Right.
I definitely believe that's like Armada. That's why I'm like nuclear, right? I really do. It might be like somehow radioactive, right? Because there also, he describes a spire in a hole in the ground, and if you get close enough to it, you sicken and die.
Yeah. Which always makes me think of, like a radio telescope or, yeah. Yeah, it's like Arecibo or something. Only it cooks you.
The other possibility it could be is a crater from a nuclear blast, and someone put the spire in the middle to warn people off, and that it's just radiation from leftover explosion.
Well, it wasn't broken before when they put it in. I don't know. Maybe they just sent in.
Yeah. Radiation suits.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, something like that.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, I imagine the accident happened. It killed a lot of people, and then they're like, "Ooh, let's put a spire up so it doesn't kill more people," right? Like,
just pick these 5 people, send them in, their forfeit, and then the greater good of humanity.
No, I mean, we have radiation suits. We work in radiation. Like, there's no problem. Like,
wrap up in Mylar. Or whatever. Yeah.
It does actually make a difference because a lot of times what kills you is the dust you inhale, and because it's radioactive, it embeds in your lungs and you end up with radioactive dust. Whereas if you actually filter that dust out, it's the exposure you get while in the area is relatively low compared to the extensive exposure you get if the dust gets into your lungs. Also, radiation on your skin, not quite as bad as radiation inside of you.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, and the ending of the second age was the discovery of the true power.
Right. And then the end of the third age is the discovery of lighting the pipe with your mind.
Yeah,
I guess.
Teleron Riyadh power? I don't know. Yeah, the world's a dream.
Yeah, they discovered redemption is a thing.
It's dreams all the way down, right? Like, yes. There's the world of dreams. Our world is a dream from which you will wake. Like, I do truly believe that he's making a metaphor about like dream layers, especially being this is a book which is kind of a dream in and of itself.
Yeah.
Inception.
Dreamception.
Yep. Dreamception. Yeah. No, it's really they just went deeper. And so the reason it turns forever is because they're just, you know, how there's that multiplication of time. So there's so many levels down. Yep. That's what's going on. And the creator is actually just, we're incepting Robert Jordan. And so we've just gone so deep into his mind that we're just experiencing this on an endless loop forever.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
You want to get back to the book?
Not really.
Okay. Well, the next page, 2 pages, is a name salad. It is Borderlander name salad. And very nearly all of these names do not show up again the whole rest of the series. This is their one opportunity to be here, and most of them presumed to live through the end of the last battle. I doubt that they all live. Yeah, it's just name salad and the politics of the last 10 years, and it's none of it's relevant.
It gives you a structure for the Borderlanders. I'm glad it's there. I wish he had used it a little bit more, like bring some of these characters back, right? This is
yeah.
And I said
it's
before,
like Agilmar,
yeah,
Paytar, Isar.
It's like when Harriet said you need to cut the fourth boy, right? Like it's you're not using him for anything. He's just there to round out the story. And you may use him for something in the future, but you may not, you know? And I feel like that's what all these Borderlanders are, is like, he was probably going to use them in the last battle. And I'm guessing that if Jordan had wrote it, we would have seen a lot more of these minor characters.
An entire book of how the Borderlanders respond to
right,
the last
exactly.
battle.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I really do think that we would have gotten more details about some. When we talk about name salad, a lot of times we're like, oh, he introduced these characters and then we never see them again. But a lot of times we see them in all of Robert Jordan's books. It's only in the last 3 that a lot of these side characters just get dropped, which I get why he did that, but it does mean that some of these characters that really could have meant something at this point just don't.
Yeah, but it lets you know that there's not just one unified culture. The Borderlanders are very fragmented and they have lots of different cultures, and that's fun world building. But there's not a lot to talk about, except for the fact that the Borderlanders are complicated.
And I think the prologue is a good place to throw name salad at us, because it gives us a sense of this world has depth, but also it's a prologue. This is a side story, and these are side characters in a side story. Don't worry too much about trying to memorize their names, unless you want to win trivia. Because as it turns out, it's an excellent source of really difficult trivia questions.
Morgan.
Yeah. Newman.
It's fun. So yeah, they're talking about, we left the blight unguarded, but the blight is quiet, but the shadow never sleeps. So they're, basically hand wringing is basically what's happening, is rulers hand wringing over the decisions they've already made.
This is something they can't control, right? They don't know what's going to happen when they slap Rand, right? Like,
right, they might all die. Instantly,
right? And this is not fun for them. Like, you're supposed to be fighting the last battle, and here you are, like, hoping that the troops you left behind are enough just in case there's an uprising.
Yeah,
like, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you're marching all your people, like, potentially to death and destruction. Or to death and destruction. I mean, best case scenario, you go die in the last battle, right? Like, that's the best case scenario, is that the last battle will happen. Whereas the worst case scenario is that you die sooner. It's not great. And so as they're dithering, Tenobia comes galloping in all of her flamboyance. And I really feel like Tenobia, the way she gets described here with the things she wants from a suitor and how flamboyant she is and rearing her horse and all of that, I feel like that is meant to give us a way to understand Fael. right? Because
Yes.
they are cousins. So when you're looking through Atheniela's eyes at Tenobia being like, wow, she's so extra, it gives you a little bit of context. Like, this is how Chaldeans are. This is a woman that Fail is sort of like a peer of.
I also think it's a little bit of like, at least Fail's not this crazy.
Yeah,
Like, this is what I could be doing to you people. Like, enjoy the Fail you got, because it could be Tenobia.
Yeah. And Tenobia does die in the last battle because of the stuff with Agomar, and the mismanagement of the army. She dies.
Right. He sends her into battle without backups, and she's supposed to basically, and there's just a moment where she just gets overrun. And
yeah, she goes tearing off into the battle, and there's no backup.
There's no backup when there's supposed to be, and she just gets flanked, and they're like, whoop, well, that's a loss. Regroup. you know, like it's just everyone just, it's like, well, anyway, there she goes.
And then the Bashirs get put in, they, you know, then Davron becomes king for like 20 minutes, and then he dies.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I always forget the Bashirs die.
Yeah.
But it has to happen for Perrin to become the Wolf King.
Yeah, they are not king and queen for very long. So yeah, Tenobia is just extra. Yes? No. Where is he? Maybe he is with this group.
He should be with this group, yeah.
Kieran should be with this group.
Because he would have gone back with Lord Algamar, and he reported back to Lord Algamar, and that's what kicked off this whole thing.
Yeah. So he must be with Algamar's retinue.
Yeah,
just
I'm
not
sure
getting
he's
mentioned
here.
here.
Don't see
okay.
him. Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about where Kieran was.
Yeah.
But no, you're right.
Yeah.
So much bigger.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, he does pop back in the last battle, where basically he's when Rand goes to meet with the Borderlanders, when they do actually finally slap him, they send Huron out. They're like, he's like, did they bring? I told them they could only bring as many people as me. Did they bring? And
it's just Huron.
And it's just Huron. They're like, it's one man. And the IEL think it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you're safe. It's just one dude.
And then Rand blows up at him.
Yeah, he thinks he's
freaks out.
He thinks he's like compelled or something.
Or he's
like,
an illusion.
Right. So he like makes him prove that it's actually him.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, he did just get his hand burned off by
it's a very fair question.
Yeah.
And Huron doesn't even hold it against him.
Mm-mm.
And then he apologizes. Once he's Zen Rand, he goes to Huron and apologizes to him, and makes Huron feel special.
Huron does die in the last battle. Yeah.
I would not have pinpointed those as characters that we would see. And with Huron, it's the opposite, right? You're someone who we spend a lot of time with in a book that you kind of think is going to be a bigger character. I don't know if is there another Huron and there's not really
Oh.
Yeah.
That is terrible.
I mean, I'll throw Loyal out there, but that's
Yeah.
But that's because Loyal doesn't have much of a journey. He's so solid. He's so loyal. He's an author avatar. He doesn't need to he just doesn't need to be in he's getting married, and he has to come to that realization that that being married is good.
Oh, her ears.
Oh, her ears are so, and her eyebrows.
The eyebrows, though.
Oh.
This is not that kind of podcast, Seth.
I actually did trim my eyebrows before tonight. Before this weekend, they were all over the place. They get really long. I swear to God, you get older and you start growing hair in places, and hair you're like, what? This didn't used to keep growing. It used to stop, and now it just goes and goes and goes. And if I don't cut it, it doesn't. I look like Andy Rooney. Or like Senbui, yeah. Ooh, now I'm imagining Andy Rooney as Senbui, and that works real well. Yeah. What the? Oh no, trust me, it's going. Let's just say gravity has affected my hair. It's retreated from the top and come out everywhere else.
What about Aes Sedai? Aes Sedai. Aes Sedai. What about Aes Sedai?
What does Aes Sedai say when she's trying to heal balding?
I don't know what.
It's just a weave.
You have told this joke to me at least 3 times.
I have,
Will
but
I
I
ever remember the
love that
punchline?
joke.
No, I won't. Because I hate puns. I've already forgotten.
It was too good of an opportunity. I couldn't let it go.
Yeah. I'll forgive you this time.
So Tenobia is rather angry that her dear uncle Davram Bashir, who she sent to bring her the head of Mazrim Taim, is now working with him under another false dragon. That is, I mean, there are circumstances, but she's kind of right. Like,
with the information she has, she is very right to be pissed.
Yeah.
It's like, I send you out to get me one false dragon, and then you just serve another dragon. Like, does my queenship mean nothing to you? Is basically where she's coming from. And she's Tenobia, so it feels extra, but yeah, it's very fair.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're my general. What are you doing? Going rogue. Basically, he went rogue.
He went completely rogue. He's working for another ruler. He took the entire army with him. Like, that's called a coup.
Yeah,
like,
it's treason.
It's treason. Like, yeah, it's bad. Now, again, we have the prophecy of the dragon breaks all bonds, yada yada yada. Like, you know, there's a certain argument to be made that when the end of the world is coming, you got to be loyal to the main leader, you know. But it's not going to hurt her soothe feelings or soothe her hurt feelings.
It's not going to hurt her soothed feelings.
It will definitely do that. Actually, it will hurt her soothe feelings. Yes. And she just I lost the train of thought on that one.
Well, then the next thing she does is be like, oh, also I have this uncle. And then she tries to hook Atheniel up with her uncle.
Which Atheniel's like, what the?
It's hilarious.
Yeah. This is like, I never thought about me as a match. Like, she's just played matchmaker so much and hadn't even thought about it for herself, which, I mean, how often do you do that? Like, you can look at someone else's problems and be like, listen, all you have to do to fix it is A, B, and C. And then you think about your own problems, you're like, there's no way there's nothing I can do. There's
my problem is actually unique and no one can solve it.
No one else.
I can solve everyone else's problems.
Sure.
Mine are intractable. It's very logical.
Very logical. Oh, yeah, get this line, Saldane's tempers were legendary. Here, hers was wildfire and a high wind, and you could never tell what would provide the spark.
That's a scary person. I would not want that person in charge of a country, honestly. That's really a lot.
The flying off the handle at a whim for something that's not predictable sucks. That's just, it's tough to work with. It's tough to be around. It's tough to be ruled by.
Yeah. It's a wonder Saldae is doing as well as it is, honestly.
Well, she's got some good advisors and she hasn't been in power that long, so.
It's true. Yeah. Her on Twitter would be.
Yeah. How good of a ruler she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, yes, she may be he's basically saying she's very technically competent at being a ruler, but she might be a little hot-headed sometimes. You know, it's definitely like, yes, he's saying she's a good ruler, but like he's also like she's a little crazy. So like, I get that she's competent and she has, you know, again, he basically raised her, so she's doing what he says. It's one of those things where I could see her being a good ruler when she got older and tempered down a little bit. Is like, I don't think it's the fundamentals that are the problem. It's the emotions and the selfishness and the lack of foresight.
Yeah.
And that just takes age sometimes.
She's 8 years older than Fael. So yeah, she's in her 20s and she should be married, according to Atheniel. She's old enough, she should be married and doing her queenly thing.
I love the description of why she's not married.
Yeah.
Because I've known those people. I've been those people. I need a perfect partner. She has to be gorgeous and intelligent and like everything I do and support me in everything except when I don't want her to. And I don't want to tell her that.
Yeah, the contradictory.
And then I grew up a little bit.
Everything.
And then learned that perfect people don't exist. And if you're looking for the perfect person, you're going to be very, very lonely.
Yeah. So, Aes Sedai. There's not a lot about them, but there's 13 of them.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a problem. First, they have no Aes Sedai, and then they have 8, and that's whoa. And then it's 13. It's like it escalates so quickly.
I don't really understand where the Aes Sedai came from. I read through it and I was like, he's like, oh, we got 1 advisor, and then 8, and then 4, and then 13. And I was like, wait, where did they come from?
Well, each one thinks that like it's like, oh, I'll just bring mine. It'll be fine. But then there's a lot of them, and so they've all brought at least 1. Because Tenobia brings 5, and she's like, I don't know how they figured out what I'm doing. They seem to want to just come along for shits and giggles. It's not a big deal, right?
That's what I'm wondering. Why are they along? Like, I mean, obviously they see a bunch of Borderlanders moving.
Yeah, I don't know.
And do we even get their names?
I mean, no, I don't think we do. I mean, we know that there's the one that Elida sent to be with Tenobia, which is Mamara, but I don't think that we have names for most of them. Oh, Koladara. Yeah, we've got Koladara. Oh, right. So what happens is Pater has 1 Aes Sedai with him, and then she has visitors for reasons that are never expounded on.
So I'm convinced that Jordan had a follow-up to this, that he was going to do more with this group.
It does feel like setup.
It really does feel like a lot of setup. And while I like this scene that Sanderson wrote, I get the feeling that this is something that just got left behind and wasn't clarified. And Sanderson did what he could with it. But there's just a lot implied here and a lot of characters that I feel like really had potential.
Yeah. But yeah, there's 13 of them, but there's some weird coincidence.
Yeah, severe coincidence. I mean, and that's what really pisses Rand off. That's why he's super angry.
That's what breaks.
That when he confronts them, he is like, you dare bring 13 Aes Sedai? It's like a bare knuckle threat, right? That's about as big of a threat as you can get to the Dragon Reborn, as being like, yeah, we're showing up and here's 13 Aes Sedai. Don't blink.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, Atheniela is like, this is ridiculous, and Pytar pulls a Caesar and a mat and says the dice are out of the cup. It's just another way of saying the die is cast.
Oh yeah.
Which is it's always fun to spot those little bits of historical references.
And I mean, they are gamblers. Jordan likes to call generals gamblers and link those together, that there's a certain amount of risk taking you have to do in the fog of war. And so no matter how much information you have, you do have to gamble. You do have to toss the dice. Yeah. And so that, we talk about Patron Nile uses that phrase very early on before Matt ever does. It's time to toss the dice. There seems to be a thread of great generals have some gambler in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, yeah. I mean, you have to risk people.
What's higher, money or someone's life, right? What's worth more? I was gonna say, don't ask Jeff Bezos that, because he's got an opinion.
There's a lot of people with complicated answers to that question. Not that many people, but enough.
So we do get this reference: Naya and Isar's Aisling vanished without a trace. Apparently those were I read a note that those were 2 people who wrote in Robert Jordan.
Yes. I read about that. Yeah. Some friends wrote RJ and were like, hey, will you put us in the books? And so he slapped some Aes Sedai into a chapter. I was like, there you go, put you in there. So that's Nina and Aisling. Neither of them are Black Aja. They're just fans. Just fans.
Yeah, those are fan. That's a fan insert. So yeah, the name definitely name salad.
Yeah, lots of name salad.
But there's tasty crunchy carrots and lettuce and
right, like kind of like the fact that Karuna is the sister of the King of Arafel. We knew that, but now we're seeing it from the other side of like, oh, the King of Arafel is really nice to Aes Sedai because he likes his sister, who's an Aes Sedai, and it just gives you that little bit of depth. It's name salad, but it gives you depth and crunch. crunchy. And then Atheniel is like, or no, not Atheniel, but one of them says it may be well. Oh, Esau says it may be well to have 13 Aes Sedai with us farther south. Like they're gonna try to gentle Rand, which is like, I don't think that would have gone well. Even if he was a false dragon, I don't think that would have gone well.
No.
They tried to still him. That's not gonna happen. But hey, why not? And then I have this whole discussion about Atheniel and Kalyan Ramsond, and she's like, "Oh, he's looking at me like a woman. This is nice."
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that they get together after. I don't remember if they live.
They
do.
Yeah,
they do.
do.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Nice. You should go honeymoon somewhere not cold.
Do they survive the last battle?
Oh yeah, they are.
Mhm.
They do kind of the loyal heiress thing, and they're like, let's just get married on the road. It's cool. We're monarchs. I mean, not that loyal and Aerith are monarchs, but you know what I mean.
And so, we wrap up the ending with the statement, the meeting had only one real purpose, a simple and ancient ceremony of the Borderlanders that had been recorded only 7 times in all the years since the breaking. So 7 times the Borderlanders have rode to confront a false dragon, or 6 times in the previous. This would be the 7th, which again, that's a lot of slaps. But this is also, I feel like the 7 is an important number. Like he is the 7th person they've investigated.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is how it's actually impressive they managed to keep it a secret, having ridden forth 7 times before and done this ceremony 7 times before.
I wonder if they did this exact thing 7 times, or if it's just the level of oath that they've done 7 times. Yeah, like I don't know. But yeah, it's presented like there's magic that bonds them together, but it's really just like giving each other tetanus. You just cut your palm, which first of all makes no sense.
Never made any sense to me. I hate that trope.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
But then it's like there's no blood magic except for the dark friends.
Yeah.
So I don't really quite know.
I think it's closer to an oath in the way that Lan would swear. Like Lan would never break an oath, and a blood oath would be even worse. Like this is the only thing that is more powerful than what Amerlin Swan swore to Bryn.
Oh,
like how do you get more powerful than that? You do a blood oath.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. And then after that, you do the oath rod, and then after that, you take off the oath rod and sort of the dark one, and that's a lot worse.
Yeah, but yeah, they are now committed to the death.
4 hands reached out and met, gripped, heart's blood mingling, dripping to the ground, soaking into the stony dirt. We are one to the death, Isar said, and they all spoke with him. We are one to the death. By blood and soil they were committed. Now they had to find Rand al'Thor and do what needed to be done, whatever the price.
Dun dun dun.
One slap. I love like that's so great when they're like, oh, we have to do, and you're like, are they gonna kill him or are they gonna, it's like, no, they're gonna slap him.
Yeah.
and ask him a question.
Yeah.
He could have answered the question wrong, and then it would have been a fight.
Yeah, then they would have just all gone in, all in. Yeah.
They did say they could come in handy when they go south, and I think that's what they were referencing. But
yeah,
it does seem like, reading back, Tenobia's like, oh yeah, they just showed up randomly. They were surprised. I was surprised. Yeah. There's no explanation of where they were traveling to, where they were traveling from. It's pattern. It's pattern and Taviran that Rand, I guess, needed 13 Aes Sedai to confront him.
It helps set off his anger to the max, which it just helps push him into that ultimate Darth Rand. It helps set him, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if that was necessary. I think he was pretty angry already, personally, but
But there may have been a time limit, right? That if he didn't go deep enough, fast enough to basically break and snap and come back, that he would have just sort of slowly corrupted.
Right. It's like this needs to escalate quickly.
This needs to escalate quickly enough that you can be you can reintegrate, because if it hadn't escalated that quickly, he would have continued to drift, continued to get more insane, and being maybe beyond the point of reintegration being possible. Yeah. And then you would have had, just LTT taking over Rand's brain,
which would have sucked.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is if you concentrate it enough, it destroys the world. Like, there's that whole balance. You have to be very careful, right?
When preparing a dragon reborn to go into the last battle, you must be very careful with how much you increase the angst, the rate at which you raise the stakes. It's very specific.
I like 2 cups of sorrow, half a cup of anguish.
And keep it on a low simmer.
Low simmer, definitely,
and
for about 2 years. And then turn it up
and put a blowtorch on it.
Right. Well, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. The chronic pain adds that, like, the texture to the.
Yeah, it's like greasing the pan first. You just have that nice base of chronic pain. Yes, and the taint.
Yeah, coat and taint for a nice chocolate covered treat.
Yeah. It's the spicy dragon reborn. Can you tell we're punch drunk?
Oh God, the marinara reborn. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, in the cookbook that the Blue Watch put together, which is on the auction, there is a banana reborn bread recipe.
Nice.
Because we watified all of the names of the recipes. So banana bread. I mean, and bananas are literally dying when you make banana bread. So it's literally bananas reborn when you make banana bread. So banana reborn bread. I don't, except when they're correct.
So I'm just imagining the banana as Rand, as like he uses the tainted power, and that's why the banana slowly turns brown.
It's
and that
channeling tainted Sidene.
Absolutely. And it's that thing, it's like, exactly, and in like the first 3 books, he's like that like starchy green banana, and then all of a sudden he turns brown, and you're like, dude, when were you ripe? And he was like, right in the middle of the Shadow Rising.
Yeah,
for like 2 chapters, and you didn't eat me. And I'm like, oh man. So
yeah, it sounds more like an avocado, honestly. Yeah.
Why do you think it's gold? It's
gold
the gold for the yellow, the banana. Yeah.
And on that scintillating note, should we call this recording and go drink beer?
I would love to do that.
Okay. And we've recorded for an hour. So thank you all for making us feel awkward while we record.
Thank you for staring at me awkwardly. I mentioned I got into podcasts, so I didn't have to do this live. Yes, many times. Okay. I love you guys. You really do. You're wonderful.
Great.
You've been great.
Yes. This is my first in-person recording. Thank you very much. Well, thank you. This is very fun. I wanted to be an actress for the longest time, and then I went to high school drama department, and I was like, nah, never mind. So it's hilarious to me that I now have this stage-like experience again. Like, I didn't expect book reading to be how I got here, but here we are. It is a very welcoming stage.
This has just been wonderful, and it's been such a fun weekend for me. And
we will be sleeping the entirety of Monday and Tuesday, but that's fine.
Go to work on Monday. We'll see. I'll be a little out of it, but fortunately, all I have to do is chop vegetables.
Nice.
If I lose a finger, it's not my fault.
You've got 9 other fingers.
All right. Yeah. No, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. I can mostly type. That's a good point. Yeah. Ooh, I did the good chainmail glove actually does sound really cool. I'd love to have one on my left hand with the knife in my right. I've seen that, but that's one. So I do too many other tasks. It's like getting it on and off is constantly. I'm not chopping like for hours. I'm chopping for like 10 minutes, and then I'm cooking something, and then I'm yeah. Ugh. Yeah, it is very gross. Yeah. Also,
Okay.
have you seen my hands? They're thick. I cannot get my hand into gloves easily, and it's very hard to find gloves that have thick enough fingers because larges just get longer, and my hands aren't long; they're thick. Yeah, and so I have. So it's like I can't get it. Like won't fit on my finger, but then there's like a bunch of stuff hanging off the end of it. It's
This
like
is very important post show.
It's extremely important
It's keeping
post-show
me
talk.
from a beer, sir.
no, it's not. Go. Okay, all right.
Thanks everyone online. You're
Thank
all
you, everyone
amazing,
online. I
and
really
thanks
do
to Rob
appreciate it.
again for broadcasting us. So
Yeah, thank you, Rob.
yeah, I think we're done.